The big five are taking the challenges by force. But who will come out on top? Let's check it out. Hey guys, welcome back to Casting Commons, the show where we talk and discuss all things Pauper. I am your host Teasdale, and this is my co-host, the Cauldron Familiar himself, Reese.
Hello.
Before we start, please do not forget to hit that like, subscribe and follow button so you never miss an upload. It also helps our algorithm and gets us great exposure for absolutely free. Another way to support us is by giving us a 5-star rating on Spotify, and that really helps us out too. Support and love, please. Thank you. So, Paul, anything going on this week?
A pretty chilled week, magic-wise, for me, I think, to be honest. I played some Modern. Our local FNMs have, slanted to Modern, which I didn't really have a deck for. I've been playing Affinity Piles for ages, because when Modern first started, my favourite deck was Affinity. It's very much power crept out of Modern now, so I had to think of something else to play because it just wasn't cutting the mustard. And I ended up seeing a Hollow One list that looked pretty cool, and pretty cheap. It wasn't that expensive for a Modern deck, which also was a good thing. But I remember when Hollow One sort of first came out as a deck. I remember I was at GP Leon and Nassif was playing it in the main event. And I also thought it was pretty sick, so I thought I'll give that a go. And it was sweet. It was pretty fun. Playing against the One Ring is absolutely heinous, and that card should not be legal. But otherwise, had some fun playing Modern. Pauper wise, I basically have just been updating decks. I've pretty much got the top 5 decks built and up to date now, as well as 4 more fringe decks. I think Elves, Dredge, Bogles, and White Weenie. So we have a pretty decent Pauper gauntlet for when we rotate back to Pauper and people want to borrow decks.
Oh, cool.
What about yourself?
Not a lot, really. Quite interesting enough, I was so fixated on trying to make cat food work and trying to make different variations work and trying it out, but I actually forgot to record a deck for Monday. So I've just missed a video just because I was away and I didn't have a video thing. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Did you not record another cat food league?
So I recorded one which was live on Friday, and I was like, oh well, I need to record something else because I can't just keep playing cat food. But I kept fixating on it that much that I just forgot to record a video. So sorry guys, I just forgot. Yeah, usually I'm pretty on it for recording when I'm away, but I was just honestly, it just slipped my mind. Yeah.
Normal schedule and will resume this week.
Yes, so I should get a video out hopefully Wednesday. If not, worst case, I'll still get 2 out and it'll just be Thursday, Friday. But yeah, but I'm glad my persistent. At least if I didn't record a video, I at least discussed it in Discords and stuff. So minor changes and all that sort of stuff. So it seemed to get people hyped on it anyways. Which definitely seems to have paid off. So, yeah.
Hopefully you haven't ruined your place in the YouTube algorithm.
No.
They'll be oh, he's not uploaded for one day. Let's send him to the bottom.
Yeah, hopefully not. But sometimes it can be pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. Pretty quiet other than that. Would you like to move on to some news?
Yeah, go for it.
So don't forget the Casting Commons Twitter has started retweeting all challenges, leagues, spicy brews, and all that sort of good stuff. We're obviously trying to double down as a hub for tech adaptation and competitive Pauper in general. So if you are interested in that, just give us a follow. It's really appreciated. Unfortunately, if you're in Brazil, I am sorry to let you know that you can't do that now. But not my fault. It was.
I wondered why I hadn't seen Weber in a while.
Yeah, they've decided to close down Twitter in Brazil for some political reasons, unfortunately. There you go. Apparently there's other social medias, but I'm yet to find them because I don't use any other form of social media, really. But, yeah. Moving on to some tournament news. On the 28th and 29th of this month, finally, in September, come on, Katowice in Poland is hosting a Pauper Classic event and a Pauper Trios event. and it will also have on-demand side events. I've been told this is the best event in Poland, and I have that on really good authority, so please do check out the tickets if you are in the area at the time or are in Poland, obviously. The cap for the event is 128, and the tickets are on sale now, and they are all in the description of the show notes below, so you can check them out. Finally, the news that we are excited for, there is a Nationals update. Thank the Lord. There's going to be an update on Nationals, the UK Pauper event. That is on the 4th of September. So from time recording, it's tomorrow. It is going to have information on the prize breakdown, what the playmat design will look like, the ticket prices of how much it will cost to enter, and also all different sale information, when you can buy them, all that sort of good stuff. So yeah, it's exciting news, exciting times, and we're finally getting close.
Yeah, it looks sweet. And I guess as a reminder to everyone, that's November 30th.
Yes.
Nationals is going to be in Sheffield, in Patriot Games Sheffield. So if you want to go, book some hotels.
Yes. But it sounds like there's a lot of hype already, because people around across the country have been running leagues to obviously get buys for this, grow communities, and people are really excited. I've heard a lot of people saying they get pulling cars through from different places, like High Wycombe, Nottingham, all sorts of good stuff. I've got multiple cars coming through, looking at spending the night before, all that sort of good stuff. So hopefully it is going to be a mega event. So if you are even considering to go to any Pauper event this year, I'd make sure it's that one.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, other than that, Pauper Darton, who is also running with the Nationals update, he generally does retweet UK-based events. So yeah, if you are interested in that, just give him a follow on Twitter, and he'll keep you up to date with all the events, where they're at, and also keep you up to date with Nationals too. But you can also just, come back here every time if you're on Nationals updates, because we have our finger on the pulse, don't worry. Would you like to move on to some challenges?
Yeah. So the Friday challenge on the 30th of August was 57 players, and was a very different challenge from what we normally see. First place was Grixis Affinity, second place was Monoblue Terror, third was Jung Gardens, fourth and fifth were both copies of Monoblue Terror, sixth was Goldotha, seventh was the Blue Black Fae control deck, and eighth was another copy of Grixis Affinity. And then the two near misses, White Weenie getting in there in ninth once again, and Black Green Glee in 10th. Obviously, off the bat, a very good showing for Terra on the Friday with triple top 8. Interestingly, all three lists were the Deem Inferior +3 Ponder lists as well. None of the lists were the Boomerang Consider lists. So interesting to see the more sorcery speed list just getting the job done. And I believe the lists were almost identical, if not exactly identical to each other, with slightly different sideboards. But yeah, all the main decks were exactly the same, which is pretty interesting to see. I guess with the sort of decline of Ponza and Bogles basically just being nowhere, the Utopia Sprawl decks sort of being out of action, and Karoo decks, like no one's really playing Karoos, like there's no FAMs and stuff like that. Boomerang has, I guess, lost a bit of its luster, and allowing for these Deem Inferior decks to be better positioned to fight the current meta.
Yeah, I still don't really know how I feel about this list, even though obviously 3 of the lists did well. And I do think we are talking nuances at this point, like the general Terra, Cryptic Serpent, Delver, Shell, regardless if the Boomerang or Deem Inferior effectively run the same. They still run Counterspell, they still run Spell Pace, they still run all the, the self-mill effects and all that sort of stuff. So, like, that side of things will work regardless which list you're on, but the nuances of Deem Inferior to Boomerang are really interesting. I don't see the upside for Deem Inferior, because it's just like it fluctuates on how good or bad it is and all that sort of stuff in certain circumstances and certain matchups. It just literally it can be really good to really bad to really good to really bad, like in the case of any given moment in a game, where Boomerang is to me is generally a it has this same level regardless. You know where you stand with boomerang, but I guess the only thing I can see is the fact that if you boomerang something, they can pretty much play the next turn. Like if you get a
Yeah.
weird circumstances, they'll skip a turn by when you boomerang. But the only thing I can think of is the fact that it's puts it on top 2 down, gives you that little bit of time to get ahead or make that threat irrelevant or whatever. Like is the
Yeah,
only it's
I
interesting.
guess that's the thing, is it's maybe just a more powerful option at the moment. Obviously has a lower or a higher low floor, but higher ceiling, whereas Boomerang's just a very consistent option.
Yeah.
I think I am gonna give this list another try, and just see how it plays out for myself, because obviously multiple basically being the exact same build top 8 and shows that it's obviously got something going on there.
Yeah.
But as you say, yeah, essentially the mono blue terror lists are only really 8 cards, 8 cards difference between the two versions. So the general core of the deck is going to function in a very similar way. It's just this sort of 8 card package, which you or 7 to 8 cards, I guess. You basically swap 7 sorceries for 7 instants. Plays slightly different because you obviously play more in your turn or more in your opponent's turn, but yeah, cool to see the basically that package just dominating the top 8.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. Like obviously, tuck in general, like the tuck effect is obviously a strong effect to have access to. So I can definitely see the pros of it, but also I can also definitely the cons are there in front of you. Why it can be awkward. So, but it definitely still pays off. It's obviously still a good option. But as you say, we're just talking nuances here. It's just trying to find that perfect sweet spot for the list, and people will still keep exploring.
One final standout for me is this all playing one of Sleep of the Dead with another copy in the sideboard. Do not sleep on this card.
Hey,
pun intended.
he's here all week.
It's ridiculously good. Like it's so good. It's unreal. It basically just wins loads of matchups that you have no business in winning at all. Definitely worth the one of, and obviously these guys are donating a one of in the sideboard as well. So I would definitely keep an eye out for that.
Cards definitely impressed me whenever I've played it, and obviously it's impressed you as well. Sweet one. The thing that stands out, thing I want to mention, obviously Bath is on a tear generally with this blue-black control deck. So Bath like 5-0 doesn't like 3 times in a row at back end of last week with this sort of list. And it still keeps overperforming. It just, to me, when I look at it, I think, oh my days, what a pile. It's just like a pile of mess of blue-black cards, but it also shows how strong blue-black is in general. Like Snuff Out, Spell Stutter Sprite, Counterspell, all that sort of good stuff were good pre-MH3 and are still good now. Along with the 4-mana guys as well. Which are
I think in particular Murmurer Mystic is such a powerful creature for Pauper that's just not really had the shell to shine in. It's obviously been in a bunch of control decks, like the Terror deck sort of side in slow matchups. But this very much looks like the shell for Murmurer Mystic to shine in. And it really does. Like it's an absolute all-star in this deck. Sort of similar situation to Sneaky Snacker. Obviously it was a standout in the Black Red Madness list. But like unplayable pretty much in Affinity, and it ended up being unplayable and cut from Affinity. And not really finding it much of a home elsewhere. And like Blue Black Terror, it got tried in and removed. But this again feels like a pretty strong home for Sneaky Snacker. Being a reasonable thing to like cast in Blue Black, like turn 4 you just leave up your counterspell or you cast down and cast a Sneaky Snacker. Not the end of the world. It powers up your Spell Stutter Sprites and powers up your Modern Ages as well.
Yeah, it's not the worst to as you say, to cast it. It's also not the worst to just hold, and even if they're not right at the time or whatever, you can easily just brainstorm, shuffle them away, and find them eventually. Like you don't need them, and they're not. It's these sort of shells are definitely it's making these 2 cards shine for sure, and it's definitely held together by all sorts of Spell Stutter, Modern Age, Thorn's obviously a powerhouse. as it always has been in these sort of control shells. The Monarch is definitely good here.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Especially with the Snacker and Spell Stutter,
Yeah.
easily steal it back if you end up losing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess my final thought on this is in comparison to the actual, or what was Blue Black Fear. Obviously, we've said a few times now that Spell Stutter Sprite is like in a decent place, but the rest of the deck just sort of didn't come together. Like the whole ninja package that the normal Blue Black Fear tries to pull out just didn't feel that good at the moment. Like there was too many. You basically got one card off your ninja, and that was it. Where this is able to leverage Spell Stutter Sprite, but doesn't have that reliance on, oh, I hope my ninja's good in this matchup, so I can pull ahead. It just pulls ahead with other cards like Modern Age, like Thorn, like Cast Down, not Cast Down, like Sneaky Snacker. Sorry. Yeah, it's a sweet one.
Yeah, and there's a lot of cool cards in here as well. Like generally, that seem to do quite well. Like you've got the one of Wither the Bloom, one of Jihadi's Ploy as well. All seems to work well with the Modern Age sort of thing. Like just flyers in general at the moment are really good, and it's just a pile of reasonably good cards that get slightly better with certain things, i.e. like Jihadi's Ploy, Sneaky Snacker, Wither and Bloom all get better because the discard package of Modern Age, and Modern Age is just generally a good card that again is sort of hasn't really found a home as such. It just sort of slides in as a okay card in decks because it is just a generally good card. And yeah, it's good to see that the army of the flying army is doing well, for sure.
Are there any other decks that you want to touch on from this?
I don't think so. I do want to mention that I believe the White Weenie in 9th was the only White Weenie, right? Yeah, there was only one White Weenie pilot.
My prediction of White Weenie increasing in player count was not coming true, but it still did well. Like nothing really changed, nothing really added to it. I guess this one's cut an idyllic range for 19th planes. For all the difference that really makes.
Yeah.
Other than that, White Weenie just do White Weenie things.
Yep, pretty much.
I guess the last thing that I want to touch on is the Gardens list, the Jund Gardens list in 3rd. I initially, like, when I started looking at this top 8, I seen Heaped Harvest. And then I thought, oh, has he put Cat in? Has he made Tissot's prediction true? But no, just a one-off Heap Harvest, just testing it out.
Yeah.
But it looks solid. It just looks like a solid, like, utility one-off artifact to run in something like Gardens, where you can sack it so easily for even more of an upside.
Yeah, I think since the added Writhing Chrysalis, I think Harvest has sort of been like a 1 to 2 of in Jund Gardens, and it seems fine. It seems like a perfect fit. As I say, it helps fix all the colour issues, and it's just a generally good card. Like, obviously, works well with your Deadly Dispute effects, and just gains your 3 life if you need to. It's not bad at all. It does help the deck, for sure.
And I think, as we'll see as we go through these challenges, Jund definitely seems to now be the Gardens flavour of choice. Like, the majority of them are just these Jund lists with Writhing Chrysalis, which to me makes Gardens look much more appealing to play, because you can actually, like, finish a game. Yeah. You don't have to just durdle for eternity. You can actually, like, kill people. So yeah, it's a sweet one, and we got there on Heaped Harvest. We haven't seen the cat yet.
Want to move on to Saturday?
Yeah. So the Saturday challenge on the 31st of August, 47 players. First place, Mono Blue Terror. Second and third, a pair of Kuldotha Reds. Fourth was Grixis Affinity. Fifth was Ponzolus. Sixth and seventh, 2 Jund Gardens, as we just mentioned. Eighth was a Jund Glee combo. And then the 2 near misses in 9th, Cat Food got there.
Let's go!
And 10th was another copy of Jund Glee. I guess I'll let you start on this one.
Yeah.
With a deck not in the top 8.
Yeah, so starting in 9th was Kirblinxy, who was on like a Gates cat food deck. It's sort of based on a guy called Cornetto, who was playing a Pestilence build, which a lot of people have seen. and then it's sort of added the gates package in, but then like trimmed on pestilence, and then went all in on crit rats basically, like crit rats and toxin analysis. So they're not running candy trails, they're not running ginger brutes. They're basically running 3 crit rats, 3 toxin analysis, 2 pestilence, and then 2 guardian the guild packs, along with 2 gate creeper vines to sort of glue the gate package together. And then the usual suspects of carrot cake, only 3 heaped harvests and 4 lembus, along with a couple of instances of cast downs, deadly disputes, and then 4 eviscerators in sight as well. They're only running 3 basilisk gates as well, which I find was quite interesting. But the more interestingly, I guess they don't really need it, and they're very more on the crit ratty sort of thing. But I guess that sort of works. You've got so much draw that it doesn't really matter that you need. I guess you probably need colour fixing. Is probably the issue. Like 4 basilisk gates. Like I've had a few games where you sat with basilisk gate and heaped gate, and you're sitting here like really slow and dirtly because you're shimmering grotto and your basilisk gates because you can't get your colours right. But I do like the idea of this, and the one thing that I do like is the fact that they went pestilence and not makeshift munitions, because it seems also just as good, especially with Guardian. You can use Cat to get back pestilence, to not have pestilence die, sorry, which is quite nice.
Yeah, I think that was the standout for me, is just how, like, obviously Cauldron Familiar dies to your pestilence, but then just before the end of your turn you bring it back and then your pestilence doesn't die. It's really cool. It's it's interesting, like how many decks this looks like just smashed together. Like it looks like a gate deck, it looks like the cat food deck, it sort of looks like gardens at the same time with like the whole draw cast down package. Then it's got the pestilence package going on with the guardians and the pestilences. It's an interesting one. The basilisk gate and like the 3 basilisk gate, 1 heap gate sort of stood out to me alongside the 3 heaped harvest as like we actually need to fit basic lands into this deck to make this heaped harvest work. Which was where I ended up with this. Why we ended up with 3 basilisk gates and 1 heap gate. Because you could have easily, if you weren't on the heaped harvest plan, like you just have 4 more gates and another basilisk gate in here, right? But yeah, it's cool. I'm not sure how relevant the gate package ended up being for Kirby. But yeah, it looks sort of fine. It looks like I'll give my guy +3/+3 type thing. More than a blue white gate double pump kill you.
I think the thing that shines for me is being able to gate crit rats so it doesn't kill itself. Seems really big.
Yeah, that's
even
cool.
if it's just 1 or 2, like you can just shoot for 2 and then attack for 3. Like, you know, killing against all the cold author guys or whatever. Seems really relevant.
I think the crit rats toxin analysis in general as well just seems really good at the moment when you're like running into these fields of like loads of terrors and like Murring Forces and Riven Chrysalises, just being able to have just that answer to all of them, no matter like how wide they go or how tall they go, is great.
One thing I did ask Kirby when he obviously came 9th here with this was that what was the thought on toxin analysis versus Shelob's ambush, is it? The one from Lord of the Rings? Because basically the main difference is it doesn't give lifelink but makes a food. And the reason I asked that question was not only because food's very relevant with Cauldron Familiar, but compared to most, it's not on a lot of foods. Like there's no ginger brutes, there's no candy trails, they're not on a full set of heaped harvests. Like I could see you running out of food here. But he basically came down to the lifelink. Obviously, you've got pestilence and crit rats. The lifelink on toxin analysis is very, very relevant, and you just have to be a bit more savvy with Cauldron Familiar food bringing back, as opposed to just rat. Because the versions I played had so much food, you could just throw a food away to bring a cat back, and then keep doing that. Where this, you just have to be a little bit more savvy because of how not little food, but how much you've kind of got to think about when you're sacking things. But other than that, it seems really sweet, and I'll definitely be giving this a try.
Yeah, it's cool to see an idea that's so recent, just like breaking into the top end of the challenges already.
Yeah. I like it how it's also like a mix of quite a lot of decks. So like there's versions of decks. So like the versions of the cat food sort of interaction. Like there's been a version that literally ran 4 Crit Rats, 4 Toxin Analysis, and then bunch of cat food. And then there's been a gate version that had just cat food in. And then there's also the cat food stuff with all these pestilence stuff, and it's just like smashed them all together. And it's like it's pretty cool. It's just like I'm gonna cherry pick the good thing out of that one, and that one, and bring them all together, and it just seems to work. Definitely sweet. I'm happy.
I guess going to the top of this challenge, obviously mono blue terror again. Again the Demon Inferior version with the 3 ponder 4 Demon Inferior. No one of Sleep of the Dead in the main this time, but 2 in the sideboard.
Yep.
I guess that's just your game 1 plan is full on terror plan. Makes sense. The 2 Kuldothas are both just the 16 creature version. So the guy who I also get, who I don't like, the 1 mana 1/2 guy that sacks to make a treasure.
Reckless Lucky.
That guy is gone. They're both very similar on a couple of Sealer Fires. As the extra burn package, one has a 1 of End the Festivities and a 1 of Goblin Grenade, and the other has 2 Goblin Grenades. By that, they are basically identical. Even the sideboards are extremely similar.
Yeah, there's a Fire Blast in one, but I can't figure out what. Oh, is it a mountain? Oh, yeah, it's a land. Yeah. So they've got.
Has one gone down the land?
One's gone down a land for a Fire Blast.
Or one's gone up a land for no Fire Blast.
Or one's gone up a land for no Fire Blast.
The Grixis Affinity, sort of as you'd expect, Grixis Affinity, nothing particularly stand out to me.
No.
It's the build on 2 cast downs, 4 Gal Blasts, as opposed to the one on 4 Gal Blasts, 3 Toxins. Yeah. Ponzulus, again, pretty stock. I think it cut a land for a wild growth, for a land, an extra forest. Other than that, almost exactly as you would expect Ponzulus. The Jung Gardens is interestingly quite different to the previous Jung Gardens we've just looked at. Well, the 6th place Jung Gardens, I should say, as there's 2. With 2 breath weapons in the main. Which I guess is a big bonus for actually getting access to red. Like you get a powerful card like breath weapon.
Yeah, I think when we seen, was it I can't remember, it was the Italian event that we ended up missing. And the first Jung Gardens came out. I think they ran like 1 or 2 breath weapons, and then when people started playing it in challenges, they just didn't really follow through with that. They just kept the Writhing Chrysalis, but like cut the breath weapon. And I think personally, having access to breath weapon, just you might as well play it, right? It's pretty much the best like wrath we've got access to, so why would you not play it?
Yeah, it sort of seems a bit middle ground right now. Like there's obviously pretty 50-50 whether it's either going to be really good or completely dead. But you can sideboard it out when it's dead.
Yeah. True. My one thing that seems odd is this particular breath weapon list has Crit Rats in the board. Like no Crit Rats in the main. Seems strange to me.
Yeah.
And obviously you do have a lot more colours, so it's a lot hard to make. Like you're still running 9 swamps here in the along with the jewels as well. Like 9 basic swamps and then 1 of each of the jewels. But Crit Rats is generally a win con. Accidentally.
Yeah, I guess the idea with the breath weapons in, the breath weapons sort of is bad when you've got Crit Rats, but also fills the Crit Rats role to some extent of the board wipe. Would be sort of where I go with that.
Yeah, I do like obviously breath weapon you can play early and like you can play as early as turn 3 and actually wipe a relevant board and all that sort of stuff. You know, similar to the whole drown argument in like black green, but I still feel like they do play like quite a significantly different role. They end up playing a significantly different role because Crit Rats obviously just ends up holding on boards or, you know, just sitting there taking control of a game by itself. Like a breath weapon in hand doesn't really do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
But it is interesting. It is interesting that that's what they've decided to do. It obviously worked out for them. They end up coming 6th. But yeah, it is interesting that that's what they decided to do, and it'll be interesting to see if people do that moving forward. Like it is less heavy on the black as well. The mana base could probably change quite significantly if they don't need that many swamps as well. They could potentially even look at playing less black lands and having even more splashes as well. But again, no heaped harvest either to help them do that. So interesting list, interesting Jung Gardens take, anyways, for sure.
I guess the final thing to touch on is the Glee in 8th, the Jund Glee, has sort of settled on 4 cameos. Obviously, we've seen this sort of shifting between cameos and Snakeskin Veil and Vines. And then basically being a debate between Vines and cameos after Snakeskin's sort of been brought off as the 3rd best. I had thought Vines had sort of won out, but definitely with all these sort of breath weapons and toxin analysis piles, cameos seems like a pretty decent place to settle on.
Yeah, just against, I think Tameo's just your best out for like Crackland Shaman, which I think there's just a lot of random Shaman-y crit rats, as you say, just around. I do like the idea of settling on 4 safekeeping, 2 duress as like sort of like protection almost. Seems pretty solid. Yeah.
Anything else?
I don't think so. People just need to pick up the 9th place list well. That's all I got.
All versions of.
All versions of. Any version of. I think Kirby also 5-0'd with a non-Gates version too. So you can check out probably Khalid's Trophy Tuesdays and find that list and play that. Or his video. I think Kirby's actually posted a video on it. So there you go. Try either. Anything with Cauldron Familiarian and Heaped Harvest and Carrot Cake, I am all for.
Moving on to the Sunday challenge on the 1st of September.
Yep.
Everyone had heard me saying how all the Sunday challenges have been more than 64 players. So obviously this one wasn't more than 64 players. It was 54, which is very low. Like the last, I think, 4 we've covered have been more than 64 players. The one after, the one after those 4 was like 62 players. And then like the 4 before that were more than 64 players as well. So 54 is a very low turnout, so I'm not sure what happened there. There's probably some world event on that we are unaware of.
My son's christening, everyone was round at my son's christening on the Sunday, so that's why.
Yeah, so in 1st place, Grix Affinity. 2nd place, Jund Glee Combo. 3rd place, another copy of Grixis Affinity. 4th place was Kuldotha Red. 5th place was another copy of Grixis Affinity. And then 6th was the Blue Black Fair control deck. 7th was a normal Blue Black Fair. And 8th was a Blue Black Terror to complete the Blue Black Brigade at the end of the top 8 there.
The Blue Black Trifecta.
Yeah. And then the 2 near misses, 9th was Green Black Glee. And 10th was Jund Glee. So again, sort of a very different top 8. I feel like all these different, or these 3 challenges in particular, sort of show the shift in the top 5s, like day to day, like which one of the top 5 is coming on top. Obviously, the Friday was very much like a mono blue domination. The Saturday was probably the most mixed, but had a lot of Kuldotha and Jund Gardens sort of near the top. And then this one is obviously like Grixis Affinity is pretty clearly on top. So interesting to see that sort of rock, paper, scissors dynamic that we have going on at the moment.
Yeah, the thing that stands out for me is taking them all as a collective as well. It shows, to me, often you get the feel of like the fringe decks of like how well they do on a given challenge based on the sort of flavor of the top 5, if that makes sense. Like this blue black, you could like. There's a lot of Grixis Affinity stuff at the top, and that's probably why they are 6, 7, and 8 because they're not really great Grix Affinity players, but the rest of not really great against Affinity. but like the other stuff, they're really well positioned at like fighting for, like the other terrors or the glee stuff and all that sort of
Mm.
like, so you kind of get the feel of where they've shifted, if you know what I mean, and what they've ended up versing based on the lottery matchups. And you sort of get that feeling with all like the Jung Gardens and stuff that we had on Saturday. You got sort of get the feeling that they are just, I'm going to try and match up lottery the 4 of the 5 or 3 of the 5 of the top 5. Yeah.
I think for me, like just I guess as a rider, the Grixis lists are all very similar, like what you'd expect. Mogs is on 4 Thoughtcasts, which is a bit different. Generally, they've been on 2 as of late. I like being on 4 because Thoughtcast is great. Other than that, there's not a huge difference between them. But the most interesting deck for me is the 6th place deck, which is the Blue Black Fair control list, piloted by Hamuda. And he's added 2 Kitchen Imps into the list that we mentioned previously from the Friday. Yeah, the 7th place on the Friday. Which I really like this as an addition to that deck, as just like a really good clock that just works with your discard package.
I do like it, and I like the fact that they often, like this deck plays in flyers are good sort of theme, the Modern Age and the Sneaky Snackers and the Spellsters and obviously the bird tokens and stuff. Like, I do like it, but looking at the list, I think they've cut a Thorn and a Murmuring Mystic.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing, apart from that, that's the only thing I don't like. But I do think it does work well. I think it works great. Like, obviously, it puts more of an aggressive spin on it, which I do like. But yeah, the only thing I'm not really keen on is cutting the Thorn and the Mirror Mystic, which sort of help grind against the other grindy decks.
Yeah, the Thorn did go to the side, but the Murmur Mystic did just get cut. Which at the moment, like as we were saying, I feel like Murmur Mystic's one of the better cards in Pauper if you can get it to work in your shell. And this is very much a shell that it does work in. So it is interesting that was the cut. I guess the idea is that you can be a little bit more aggressive with your Kitchen Imps and your Sneaky Snackers, and maybe you don't need to go as late into the control game.
Yeah, and also not committing to 4 is also good because you're not like Madness. You don't have this giant discard. I think they've only got 5 discards, or Jumpstart a land, right? Is Jumpstart a land?
No, Jumpstart is just a card, I believe. And there's 4 Modern Ages, and the Deharders as the discard.
Yeah,
I think that's it.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember if it was 4 or 5. Because I couldn't remember if Jumpstart was a land or not, and it's obviously not. Just a card.
No. But yeah, it's a sweet addition. I guess other than the cut, which I'm not sure on, I do like the addition of it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But Blue Black obviously seem to do well. All flavors of it, including the Blue Black Fair, which is interesting. It doesn't look anything out of order. It looks just like Baco's list from memory. Maybe the sort of bomb side of things, i.e. the 1 Murmur Mystic, 1 Angler, 2 Thorns. That sort of end game is probably a little bit different. Oh, it's on 4 Seers, of course, as well. So it is a little different. But got a lot of one-offs, the usual one-offs: Spell Pierce, Suffocating Fumes, Wither and Bloom, Agony Warp.
Yeah, like you said, slightly up on the Seers, gone from 3 to 4. The Germag Angler, I think, is added as well, off the top of my head. But yeah, other than that, fairly stock Blue Black Fair. It is interesting to still see like this deck performing and like not choosing to run this new sort of Blue Black control fair version. Like the ninjas, if you can get the ninjas to work, like it's still really powerful. I just think that's a very hard ask at the moment.
Yeah, especially against like the other top deck, like the other top decks. Like obviously, if you're versing Glee, like not Jund, like black green Glee, the ninjas will probably look really good because they don't really have anything else. They have Brood Scale, and that's sort of it. So you can just keep getting through. But then after that, there's a lot of stuff that just gets in the way. Like obviously Ponza or Ponzaless has got all sorts of stuff that just gets in the way of ninjas. But maybe just basically playing a glorified unsummon is good enough for you. Like you're basically playing like a really weird unsummon for your spell stutter sprite that sometimes wins games. Maybe that's good enough. Like obviously they're only running three ninjas to do that.
Yeah.
It's not heavy on like ninjas. Like it's not like Mono Blue with Moon Circuit and Ninjas Debuffs and all that sort of stuff. But I think that the blue black phase definitely just hard carried by Snuff Out and Spell Stutter, and occasionally gets free wins from being generally fayy.
And I guess touching on the last blue black deck, the blue black terror. Obviously, it's O'Daniel, as it always is when we see blue black terror.
Yep.
Nothing particularly new. Still on just like the 16 lands, 5 dual lands, 11 islands, 2 archaeologists, and 8 bombs. Yeah, fairly stock blue black terror from 6 months ago, 7 months ago, whenever it was.
Pretty much. Nothing really changed.
No, it's cool to see something basically this old still just competing at the top level of the challenges with all the new like Glee combo and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if it's just again like Snuff Out and counter pieces will obviously work against Glee anyways naturally. Quick Clock also helps, and then it's just I'm guessing pretty prepared for the other control matchups with Deep Analysis and Crawl from the Cellar and also Permission. And then finally, I guess, hopefully find the Fangs for Cold Author and you're sort of kind of gluing up on the 3 of the 5, I guess,
Yeah, to be fair, going over that, it doesn't seem in like the worst position against the top 5. Like, it seems surprisingly solid. Like, it's aged quite well. Like you said, Cold Authors is a bit sketchy because you basically just do need to find Bomb plus Fangs. And I'm not sure how it will go against Ponzaless, but outside of that, it seems pretty solid.
Hope you find the right permission at the right time is probably where it's at.
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet to see. It's sweet to see that obviously Blue Black is really well positioned, and Snuff Out is a strong card, and Basque and Brood skills definitely helped Snuff Out get even better. But
yeah. Takeaways play a blue black pile, and it doesn't really matter which one as long as you've played it for a long time and know what it does.
Yeah. Obviously, strong weekend for Grixis, as we've already touched on. And then the Jund Glee in second place, just finally to touch on. I don't think it was out to of the question. It was very much still on 4 Tamio Safekeeping, 2 Duresses. So it was very much what we'd seen earlier in the week. But I think Season of the Mists one was very much in 10th on Jungly on his own version with 2 Samuel Safekeep and 2 Duresses, but then 2 Implements and 2 Evolution Witness, which he's been very high on and did a write up on why he liked them. That sort of
2 Fanatical Offerings as well to sort of go with that Evolution Witness shell. Like to start triggering it. Interesting. It's definitely I guess a more control-y way to take the Jungly shell. If it's not controlling enough already.
Yeah, it definitely just gives you that sort of, I don't really need my combo, please kill my other plan first, and then I'll kill you with the combo sort of vibe. It's good. Seems to work out. But yeah, I don't think there's anything too interesting after that. I think Last Right's in 9th on the Black Ring Glee, which was sort of a big thing for last week. Last Right just sort of appeared in high numbers, I think, last week with the black green versions, Brunadit and all that sort of stuff, and then just sort of seems to have disappeared. But then again, so has really black green Glee. It sort of hasn't really. It's only appeared twice, right? 10th and 9th. 10th on Friday and 9th on Sunday.
We've had 2, but there's been a lot more Jund Glee, and in general, there's just been a lot more Jund Glee. I guess as well, it's sort of in this like the 2 Glee decks sort of attack the meta from slightly different angles. So I imagine it ends up being whichever other of the top 5 decks are good at that time or performing well. decides which version of Glee you want to be on, whether you want to be on Jund or you want to be on Black Green.
I'm just trying to find the Jund Glee on side. Just to put it in perspective, they're definitely in roughly same numbers, but Jund Glee, Golgari and Jund Glee on Friday had a horrendous time. Like, you're talking like 30% win rate, but then on the Sunday, was it? They just like the Jump Brood scale had a 60% win rate, and Golgari had a 40% win rate. So they definitely it shows that they are just attacking the metagame in such a sort of different manner. Yeah, I think, to be fair, personally, I do prefer the black-green version, just because it's more my wheelhouse, but I do think the Jund Glee version is a lot better at the sort of metagame we've got at the moment, where you're more likely to verse the out of top 5 decks, like the blue-black decks, the white weenies. It has more about it than it has game against these sort of decks, I think, personally.
Yeah, I think any deck where Riven Chrysalis can carry you, obviously the Jund is going to be a lot better. And anywhere where you can leverage a mana advantage, like with this sort of Cleanse and Wildfire early game, it gives it a lot more play. Interestingly, just as a final thought, the Season of Mist one doesn't run any Malevolent Rumbles, which has sort of been a staple for all of these Glee combo decks for quite a while. To see none is quite surprising.
Very reliant on the Evolution Witness side of things, though, and I think that's kind of what they're leaning into. But yeah, it is surprising. Very interesting for sure. Wonder which one will end up taking off.
Do you want to move on to your shout-outs?
Yes. Thank you all for the grinders who obviously have absolutely made this interest. Obviously, season ground.
All the grinders who have ground.
Yes. Luffy, obviously, I think double top 8 this week. You've had a lot of grinders. Daniel with obviously blue black. Hamuda with the spicy kitchen imp. Of course, we thank Kirblinxy for playing cat food twice. Played it the Friday and came 26th, and then ran it back and came 9th. Look at that. That is what I call commitment. Thank you.
Just needed to find the right meta for it.
That's what it is. And then thank you again for Kirby, not only for the cat food, but for the data. Obviously really helpful and helps us gauge things a lot easier with matchup win percentages and all that sort of stuff. So it's always good. And then finally, thanks to Pauper Dan for the update of Nationals. That, as probably as you're hearing this, you'll have probably already seen the video. If it is out, I will edit the show notes to link it in the description, so you don't have to go ratching for it. I'll put it in there just so you can easily find it. So yeah, if it's being posted, I will put it in. So yeah, thank you, Dan, for the grafting for Nationals, and it will be a mega event, I promise.
Get your tickets now.
Yes.
We will definitely be there, and if you see us there, ask us for a sticker, and we'll give you a cast and comment sticker.
Yes. Do that too. Hot takes from last week?
Yeah. My hot takes from last week, my first one was that White Weenie would increase after its top 8s. That didn't seem to happen at all. It was basically nowhere on the Friday, even though it got a top 10.
Yep, it did get a top 10. There was 5 pilots all weekend, 1 on Friday, 1 on Saturday, and then 3 on Sunday.
So it was basically the opposite of my hot take. It decreased. After it did well, it decreased in popularity. Yes. For whatever that's worth. A bit of a weird one.
My first one, was Colgate will come back. And they're up, please. You're always right. It did not. I actually don't think anyone played it right.
I didn't notice anyone I was scrolling through. Unless it was outside of the 32.
0 on Friday, 0 on Saturday, and no, drum roll, please, 0 on Sunday. Actually, Sunday looks really small in terms of like list wise. It looks very consolidated. It's a lot of 10, 9, 8, 6, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. That's it. It's all over. There's a lot of less ones. That's it. But yeah, no, it was not the case.
It's maybe the missing 10 people. It's all people who just play one-off decks.
Yeah, that's what it is.
But yeah, no Colgates at all. Yeah, it's surprising.
Yeah, there's usually at least one madman that sort of does something, but no. I still think it's maybe the success of Cat Food in ninth has showed the power of Basilisk Gate and Guardian, and then they'll play Cat Food instead of Colgates because it's much more interesting.
My last take from last week was that a non-Glee combo deck would return to the top eights. That is also a no. There is no Tyrube on his Cycle Storm.
I think I seen him. He came like 18th in one of the challenges, right, with Cycle Storm.
I was getting there, but yeah, I'm still not sure how I feel about non-Glee combo. Like, I feel like it's got a lot of pressure that it has to, or a lot of, I don't know what the best way to word is. It's got a lot of work to do to make it worth playing instead of Glee combo. Like, you've got a lot of decks that you have to beat, and I'm not sure which combo deck is up to that challenge. Obviously, Cycle Storm running hot would be up to it, but outside of that, maybe it's just a bit too hostile for non-Glee combos at the moment.
I think my thing is a lot of the other combos just get a lot of splash damage, not only from Glee, but from the other decks. Like you next, like you've got Terror there, then you've got dredging like sort of people's back burners. It's like just fighting for just underneath. So you've got a lot of graveyard hate there, and it's just a lot of things to fight for, if you know what I mean. So you've either got the removal from Glee, or you've got the graveyard hate from Terror / Dredge. Like you're just constantly fighting on the back foot. Yeah, it is pretty unfortunate. I did try Mugworts, to be fair, last week, actually, now that I think about it. But unfortunately, in leagues, Mono Red has made a massive resurgence. And I've lost 4 Mono Red. So I was like, I'm never winning this matchup anyways, but here's 4 times you're not winning. So like,
and Mono Reds that are sliding in Sealer Fires and stuff like that as well, like to make it even worse.
They never got that far, to be fair. They basically just steamrolled me with Kuldotha, Bushwhacker, 2 and 3. Oh, God's sake, here we go. But yeah. My last one was that someone will top 16 with Cauldron Familiar. Yeah, boy! We got it! The one that nobody thought was coming in. It come. It was here. The only one to come in this week. The wild card. For those that are listening in audio, I'm dancing. Just
It does seem like surprisingly good. I would not be surprised if we see more Cauldron Familiars next week. And not just Kirby's version, just like other like Cauldron Familiar piles.
Yeah.
It's not good against everything in the meta, but it's, I would say, good against like 2 out of the 5 or 3 out of the 5 of the top 5 decks, which is sort of where you want to be. If you are not playing one of those decks.
And also the thing of the whole the Cauldron Familiar food package, I'd agree is definitely good against 2 out of the 5. But you've then still got other half of the deck that kind of, however you want to build it, you can sort of build it to be good against the other side of things as well. Like the whole Crit Rats Toxin Analysis Pestilence is really then good against, like, you know, the Terrors, the Pulled Authory side of Lifelink side of things as well. So it's really good that way, that it's so flexible. That's why I made a video on saying put in Gardens and nobody listens to me because they're playing Riven Chrysalis, like boring people instead of a cat. Sweet old innocent cat.
They like finishing the games, that's why.
Boring. Why play Magic quickly when you can bore your opponent to death and play Magic forever? They can concede at any point. That is a wink.
Hot takes for next week. My first one is that Bogles would return to the top 10s. It's something we haven't seen in a while. And there isn't like too much hate out there for it at the moment. If Terrors are cutting on boomerangs, like you lose that worry. And there's not, like, edicts just aren't really a thing at the moment. So you never know.
Yeah, the Gardens lists, like like Golgari Gardens are cutting Titan Blades in some lists completely because it's not great. Jung Gardens is cutting down on it because I still think they run some. But yeah, solid choice, to be fair. I guess the only concern is like Crackland Shamany Toxin piles is the
Yeah, you
biggest
basically
concern.
just have to dodge the Grixis Affinity decks.
Or hope you know toxin analysis check them and they can't do it.
Yeah.
They can't perform to your dance. That's it. My next one is that I actually feel like this one's quite free now, you know. But I'm kind of hoping that people just pick up on Kirby's deck. But mine's Pestilence will top 16. Not the deck, the card. Just to clarify, not the deck, the card.
I guess it depends if people take Kirby's list and just jam that, or other like like you said, direct it in the way they want to go. Because the actual core is not really a Pestilence core. You have to sort of add that bit. So yeah, interesting.
I'm excited. It's like a whole new world of cats have been released. And I'm a dog person, but I love Cauldron for me.
Honorary dog. My last one is that more control in the meta. We're sort of getting to a point where we've got these top 5 decks, and you can sort of see how they're rotating in the meta. So, like the blue-black control decks, for example, have a better target to aim for. And when you can point those control decks to like 2 decks that you want to beat, they have like the real potential to like crush a meta if they're called right. So I imagine sort of more control decks pointed at certain metas, if they get it hit right, will populate our top 10s.
We need like a Grixis pile. That's what we need. We need like a
Grixis... non-Grixis Affinity control.
We just need like Grixis Wildfire with Snuff Out. Something like that. That's what we need. We just want some Snuff Out Wildfire piles. That would bring me joy. I just love Wildfire and Snuff and stuff. Woo. That's what we need. Warm me cockles up. Coming up winter. My last one is that Elves will top 8 next week. And basically, I'm just throwing darts at decks that I think can potentially squeeze through. Like, Elves is pretty good if it versus the right stuff. Again, similar to the whole Bogles dodging Crackland Shaman side of things. Yeah, dodge that sort of stuff. You are golden. Elves will smash. There we go.
Yes.
All we got. Elves is going to top 8 next week. Just one copy.
Yeah. It's like you said, it does have the potential if you hit that meta, right? Like if you just play against a pile of terror, like you're probably not going to have a bad time there. But if people are playing these Pestilence, Crypt Rats, Cauldron Familiar piles and a lot of Grixis Affinity, you're probably going to struggle.
If people
you basically just want a load of Ponza and a load of Mono Blue Terror as the top 2 decks to beat.
If I'm if I lose out on my hot take because loads of cat food's coming, I'm golden. I am, believe me, I'm not sad. Not sad about that whatsoever. But yeah, I think, and I also think with the way that like Nubarola's, not Nubarola's list, but I forget the Elves pilots' names lists. I can never pronounce it.
Queen or
yes.
Queen.
Yes, it was also top 8 actually this week without playing Elves. We're playing something else. I think we're playing Grixis Affinity. But they're sort of list with like the Nyxborn Hydras and stuff.
Yeah, they're like stompy elves.
I think that sort of thing has a bit more accidental free wins to get past the Crackland Shaman stuff. So, you know, more likely. Could happen. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Anything else?
No, that's it for me.
Look at that. Wrapped another one up. Washed it out the park. Thank you all for listening. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please do not forget to share it with your friends, your family, your local pauper community, and even your local bartender. Get out of my pub. If you're British, you'll know what that means. Anyways, that is all from us at Casting Commons. Until next time, and don't forget to stay hydrated. Peace.
Bye.